Happiness is beautiful, it's a kind reality. Happiness is the highest good, happiness is free. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.
Welcome to the Happiness Show. This is Lionel Ketchian, and I'm here with George Ortega, and we're here to talk about happiness because happiness is, always has been, and always will be the point of it all. Today we're going to be talking about happiness and respect. So with that, I want to ask you, George, how is happiness and respect related? I mean, what's the tie-in with these two aspects?
Okay, we're going to eventually get into how respect is related to interpersonal relations, but I want to start off with how respect is related to happiness very directly. The idea is, in our society, throughout the world, we as a people, as individuals, respect money, we respect success, prestige, fame, honor, all these things, we respect different things. In relation to that, as a people, as individuals, we hardly respect happiness. I mean, happiness has a really, it's just not respected very well. It's ironic, it doesn't make sense, it's very perplexing. So, the idea is the first way that happiness and respect tie in and how respect is important to happiness is we have to realize that while we're respecting each other and our civilization, what we have, it is primally important to respect happiness because everything else has its goal in maintaining and increasing happiness.
And as you're talking about all the things that we seem to hold high, you talked about money and all these power and prestige and so forth. And when we talk about respect, we seem to also lack not only self-respect, but respecting one another. And I think that that's become a very big issue and a very big problem in today's world, because I think a lot of things could be better if we were more cooperative, less competitive, and more respectful of one another, because we're all in this together, and unless we understand more about win-win, and that it's a big piece of pie, and unless I get mine and you can't and prevent you from getting yours, I won't get mine. If we keep thinking that way, we're compromising our quality of life. And I think that happiness introduces another aspect to respect, and that is that by being happy, we respect ourselves. By being happy, we respect the other person. So happiness shows us, if you will, a model for respect and for self-respect. I think it's a good way to understand respect.
Yeah, because all right, so we've pretty much covered, the need to respect happiness, but then there's as you were referring to, the interpersonal relations. And then the idea becomes that, well, what does it mean to respect another person? What it means is to consider that other person's happiness important. When we disrespect someone, it's like we're expressing to them, your happiness is not important, because that's the sting of disrespect. When we are disrespected by someone, they're communicating a lack of concern for our well-being, for our happiness, and that's why often it hurts. So yeah, when the connection between happiness and respect is that we respect others in order to make it so much easier for them to feel happier.
Yeah, you remind me again of, this sort of dramatization I make between being selfish and being self-centered. It's almost like the difference between that, being selfish and being self-centered, is a self-centered person would say, this is kind of a joke, but it still pushes the point. I come in and George, I talk to you about myself for 20 minutes, okay? So I do nothing but talk about myself, could care less about you. And then after 20 minutes I say, George, I've talked enough about myself. Why don't you talk about me for a while? So a self-centered person the only reason anyone else exists is to observe them. I mean, they have no respect for another person. All they see everyone as is a vehicle for seeing themselves. You know, almost like, hey, hold this mirror so I see myself better, or listen to me because I've got everything to say and I don't care anything about what you're saying. So that's why it's very important to be selfish and go after happiness and have it for yourself, but it's very important to also be selfless and to give it to others. Now, there's a big difference between selfish and self-centered, because again, I say, a self-centered person cares only about themselves, and a self-centered person has no happiness. They are so deprived of happiness that they have to go out into the world and take it, and actually they have no respect for themselves or for anyone else. And I think this is one of the problems of the world, is that things are not going to bring happiness, and we're just starting to find that out now. And a lot of what you and I talk about is common sense. Happiness is common sense, but we still haven't gotten in touch with it as a need within us that we have to fulfill. We have the obligation to fulfill this need, and out of respect for ourselves, beginning with ourselves, we have to find out how to fill that need.
Yeah, and you were talking about, you know, how it's important to not be too concerned with oneself, and very happy people know that very well. You know, extroversion is one of the personality traits that's most correlated with great happiness, with happiness in general. And a very happy person will realize that happiness is not just about themselves, it's about us, it's about other people. And so then the tie-in with respect is happier people know that when they respect other people, you know, the basic respects, the simple respects, listening to them, caring for their happiness, then that's going to put the other person in a frame of mind, in a state that's going to allow that person to be happier. You know, so happy people recognize that other people are very, very useful for them to be happier and feel much happier, and so that respect really becomes a tool. You know, it's another tool for helping oneself become as happy as possible through helping others also become as happy as possible.
Yeah, you raised some very interesting thoughts on respect. What is respect, actually? How would you define respect, really?
Again, I think that it's as simple, you know, it's as simple as respecting another person's right and desire for great happiness. Because sometimes we think about respect in terms of like respecting a person's self-esteem. We don't want to humiliate a person and have a person not feel good about themselves. Okay, and that is a form of respect. But when you think about it, the greatest form of respect is really to appreciate, acknowledge, and further that other person's strivings to become as happy as possible. You know, how better can one respect another person than by being attuned to that person and really trying as much as possible to help that person feel as happy as possible.
As you're talking about respecting the other person in the highest form, I think of a marriage, for example, and in a marriage, if two people really love each other, the basis for that is that they want to really respect and do the most they can for the other person. Although I think there's a long way to go in marriage and in society today for that to become a greater understanding and to even work its way into becoming common sense, the truth is happiness is a very important part of marriage, but we don't understand it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of ironic in a sense because, like, married people are generally substantially happier than single, divorced, or widowed people. On the other hand, we have an over 50% divorce rate. So there are a lot of people who are, you know, get married, and a lot of times the problem is framed in terms of communication. That, you know, the couple isn't communicating well. But a lot of times, I think, to simplify it more, it probably is a matter of simple respect. Of not, you know, of each partner not being concerned so primarily with their own well-being, but seeing the couple as a single unit, as one, and having the energy go toward the greatest happiness for the pair, for the union. And so yeah, again, it's respecting the other person's need for happiness. It's respecting, like, a lot of times with marriages, it's I would imagine it's about power, sharing power. So if a person, if one, takes the other person's power, doesn't allow the other person to have power, that may impinge upon that level, the person's level of happiness, and so it's a form of disrespect.
Very well put. Boy, George, you're really hitting some nails on the head here. I think you've hit two really good, solid foundation nails. One is certainly about power. I think happiness is power, and when there is disrespect, especially in a marriage, or for that matter, in any situation, whether it be business or parents or whatever, when the disrespect shows itself as taking power from the other person in order to get your way or get your point across, what happens is you either make the other person antagonistic or you make them helpless. Either way, you make them you allow them to experience unhappiness. I don't think we make them unhappy. I think people end up being unhappy by their very own choices that they make. But you're bringing up a very good point with power. I think power is behind respect. I think when you show respect, you show more power. And I think it's a beautiful power, one that we are not tapping into, one that we're not very aware of. I think in this day and age, we need respect more than we need anything. I really do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then that leads to the question, well, I mean, if respect is so important to our happiness and to the happiness of others, why aren't we more respectful of one another?
Well, maybe I can answer that question with another thought that back to the marriage and back to the second nail that you hit on the head as far as I'm concerned. In a marriage, respect, again, is a very fundamental basis for getting along. Rather than competition, you need cooperation, especially in marriage. How do married people really show respect? They talk about love, but the way to really show respect, and I think this is the way to do it, the way to maintain a marriage is to show appreciation. Because when you show appreciation, you're also showing respect, and appreciation is a fundamental aspect of happiness. You can't show appreciation without being happy. Or I'll put it to you another way. If you show appreciation, you will raise your level of happiness, you will raise your level of respect, you will raise your relationship. It goes one with the other. When you're feeling unempowered by a situation, sometimes connecting with what you appreciate with that person will change everything for the positive towards the good. Otherwise, you're in a dogfight, and that doesn't change anything.
That is true, because I suppose, when we're appreciating the other person, we are working with them, we're cooperating with them, we're looking for the good. And I suppose at times when that's not happening as much, what tends to be happening is, like, we feel that if we don't respect the other person, then that is a form sometimes of gaining power over them.
Yes.
And that's such a mistaken notion, because what happens is, we're not simple-minded. We know when we're being disrespected, and there's a part of us that will want to, like, get the person back. I mean, we're just, like, naturally driven like that. So when someone disrespects us, or when we disrespect someone, we've created an antagonistic situation where it's almost right for the other person to defend themselves, or perhaps it is right, and the idea that it's confused, because, like, we're thinking to ourselves, well, it's like we were talking about this on the show with about happiness and kindness. We're thinking to ourselves, happiness is a I win, the other person must lose situation, when it's just not. Happiness, the greatest happiness comes when one person wins and the other person also wins, and so that's the issue of respect, is understanding that it's not about competition, it's not about kind of lowering the person's level of power through disrespect. It's about maintaining that balance and together working for greater happiness.
George, you hit on another thing, and I think the way respect is what everyone's after, in a sense. Some people want it because they're going to influence their power to gain respect, and they don't care what the other person thinks. So it is a win-lose situation for them. They want to win respect, and they don't care if people lose. But we all know that's not respect. Real respect is a win-win situation, as you say, and it's finding respect for the other, well, respecting the other person and gaining respect back. And I think that that's a mutual cooperation that that happiness could show us. So you raise a good point. This win-win model is a good one, and respect is a win-win. People respond to respect. I think that's what it comes down to. You will elicit the very best response from someone by respecting them.
Yeah, and sometimes sometimes we feel that we shouldn't respect a person maybe for their views or opinions. Let's say another person has an opinion that's different from ours.
Right.
And let's say for whatever reason we think they're wrong and we're right. You know, for some reason a lot of times that leads us to believe that we then have a right to disrespect that person because because we think what they're thinking is wrong. Okay, personally, I like to view situations like that in the sense that we didn't create ourselves. You know, God created us or nature created us, and we're given this perspective. In other words, like, you know, my perspective on a certain situation, my opinion, is something I've arrived at that seems, you know, just logical or rational to me. And it's the same with the other person. You know, they sincerely hold that belief, however wrong it might be, however misguided. So, like, what happens is, like, if we use opinions as a reason to disrespect others, then we're creating a distance that doesn't have to be there. A great example of this is, like, I think it was in the 1992 presidential campaign. Mary Matlin, I think, was one of George Bush's Sr.'s major campaign people, and then James Carville was one of Clinton's top, you know, campaign people. And so you've got this extreme, they're very extreme, an extreme Republican and an extreme Democrat. These two people got married. They've got about 3 kids now. They do television shows together, you know, just battling out all these different views on how things should work. But they have the wisdom to understand, hey, this person may have a totally different view from me, but I still care about this person's happiness, and they still care about mine, and so they just make it really work.
It's interesting that you could disagree with somebody, but yet respect them. That's a good point. I think so. Respect should be above what, ideologies or thoughts or, you know, people's beliefs.
Yeah, because I mean, like, you know, we have a sense of right and wrong. And let's say we think that another person's opinion or view or actions are wrong. We kind of, like, even have a responsibility to try to correct them if we feel we're right. But you know, this is something that we have to do with a concern for their well-being. I mean, this is something I learned when I was studying Judaism. If we feel the need to correct someone because we feel they're doing something wrong, and they may not be, you know, this is just our opinion, we have to have as much concern for their feelings as we have for this issue of right and wrong. So in other words, you know, hey, I think you may be mistaken in this view or something like that, but always having a respect for the person's feelings and happiness.
Yeah, George, I've always felt that if the issue was that somebody was doing something wrong, then primarily your focus should be on helping that person see what to do right. Now, I think respecting the other person and being pretty much kind, gentle, and showing appreciation towards the person will go far in showing them that there is another way to look at this. But just telling them they're wrong and going at them, you know, a win-lose mentality, it is doing what? You know, is driving home your point at the expense of not letting them see your point of view. I think the point of view must be put out there, but it could be put out there with respect. And I think respect is pretty much a good way to serve whatever you believe in to others. And if nothing else, you've served them, in a sense. That doesn't mean you've imposed your will on others. You've just served them what you think, just like we're doing with this show. We're giving people a perspective on happiness, but with the utmost respect. I mean, because the one thing we really feel is important is respecting other people. So there'll be some who tune in and tune out, and that's fine with us. But there'll be others who have maybe gleaned something and really saw that For all they know, learning something about appreciation and respect could better their marriage, could better their home life, or they're dealing with their kids. So somewhere, you're teaching people, or we're teaching people, that happiness and respect can really better their lives.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the important thing.
Yeah. Lionel, you've mentioned in the past, you ask your club members, what would you rather be, right or happy?
Mm-hmm.
And this goes right to the point of respect, because we seem to very often value rightness or respect rightness more than we respect happiness.
So true.
If we respected happiness, then yeah, whether we're right or wrong, I mean, it's great to be right, whatever, but it's not necessary to be
So
right
what?
to be happy.
Yeah.
Right. So it goes back to that idea of, like, there are a lot of things in life to respect. We have to respect each other. We have to respect ourselves. We have to respect just society, just goodness, virtue, and all that. But I think while we're respecting all this, I think we have to put everything in perspective and realize and constantly maintain the awareness that respecting happiness is fundamental. It's primal, because all these other kinds of respects that we show when we feel are designed to help us, understand the world in a way that helps us to become happier.
Well, we wouldn't have had it in our country's rights to pursue happiness if it wasn't important. So this happiness and respect is really part of us as a nation. It really becomes our freedom, is really what it is. So when we impose on respect, when we disrespect others, we are really hurting our freedom. We're really not acting as free as we possibly can as human beings.
Okay, yeah, that leads to a question. I mean, we talk about, respecting happiness and respecting other people, but then the question becomes, well, like, what's the importance of respecting ourselves to our happiness?
I really feel that that the problem makers of the world are people who have no self-respect, or who are trying to fix problems without the balance of respect for themselves. For example, a terrorist would be a person who has a real belief in what they're doing, but no self-respect. I think they're putting their whole belief in the outer world rather than understanding that basically we're all people and we have to get along. A murderer is somebody who has no self-respect and so exhibits no respect to the world. I think it's just when you're not respecting someone else, it's just a reflection of your inability to respect yourself, so that it becomes very necessary to learn how to respect oneself in order to live in a society where we can get to the point where we can respect another or show respect to another.
Yeah, I think what happens is, like, in attempting to respect ourselves, the same thing happens when we're trying to respect others. We get distracted. We get distracted by respect for wealth, respect for power, respect for success, respect for being right. So in the same sense that respecting happiness is very, very important, we also have to just move away from those distractions of trying to respect all these other things, and understand how important it is to respect ourselves. Because, like, in a certain sense, again, like, when we show respect to others, we're demonstrating to them that their happiness is important to us. That's a lot of what respect is about, and it applies to ourselves. When we're respecting ourselves, we're showing ourselves that we're important. And seeing kind of from a very, very simple standpoint, we are ourselves, our bodies, our minds are simply another stimuli, in this world. I mean, we're surrounded by stimuli that we see and feel and hear and all. And the importance of respecting ourselves is that, like, whereas other people and other places and things are not with us all the time, we are always with us. We're always with us. So, like, while it's important to respect other people, and that's going to make becoming happier very important, it's also very important to respect ourselves because we're with ourselves all the time.
I think you hit on one of the most important things of all, because it's a 24/7 thing, and another reason to be happy, of course, but when we become agitated, I think there's an aspect of respect there. So, as you said before, if we could disagree in a respectful way, wow, That would be a new one. That would be great. I think it would become very powerful. I hope that catches on, because I think that's pretty beneficial. Respectfully disagree, for example, rather than just have a fight in the dirt.
Okay, I wanted to go back to the topic we started on about like respecting happiness, and then the question would be, well, if happiness is hardly respected in society throughout the world today, what can be done to encourage people to respect happiness as much as it really should be?
Well, the only thing I can think of is to learn more about it, because if people become more aware of what happiness really is and what benefit it really can give them, there would be their answer. But the awareness isn't there.
Yeah, I think part of it may actually have to do with defending happiness. You know, when something is not respected by others, it's seen as something that's weak and ineffectual and unimportant. And so, like, we have to defend it, just like freedom is defended, just like, so much of, that we value is defended, love and all. Happiness has to be defended. There are some people who don't value it, who ridicule it, who don't give it much respect. We've got to,
Sure. And really, all the things we're talking about is another way of talking about happiness would be the words emotional competence, because that's what we're really talking about. Things like kindness, respect, they're aspects of emotional competence. And when you exhibit emotional competence, you really work at a very higher state of being, one that really gets you more of the things you want and gives you the quality of life that everyone's looking for. Yeah, I'd also like to take a moment to tell people, if you want to find out more about what we're doing, check out happinessclub.com, and you get a free newsletter on the website. Come down to a Happiness Club meeting. We have them once a month in Fairfield, Connecticut, and we're starting a discussion and empowerment groups on a weekly basis. So we're doing a lot of things that, George, you've been brainstorming on with me, and it's nice to see these things coming about, all because of the way we think.
Yeah, it's really exciting. We're getting a lot of other people involved, and we're really promoting happiness in ways that are actually, I think, really working.
It's great, and because happiness really works, and it's beneficial. So we're just about out of time. With that, I want to say I hope you have a really good day today. Thank you very much for watching us, and in the future we're going to explore other topics designed to help us better enjoy life, be good, think well, feel very happy, and I hope we'll see you again next week on The Happiness Show.
Happiness is powerful, it's our underlying need. Happiness is why we live each day. Happiness is destiny. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.